So, welcome to this SGVirtual, the first one in February, and we are pleased to have three eminent participants from Passbolt and who have a very interesting story to tell you. First of all, some housekeeping notes. This meeting will be recorded and you will afterwards be able to review it on our YouTube channel, SG Local. On the other hand, we would like to thank our partners as usual, and especially this time Lux Innovation for having enabled us to get into contact with Passbolt and to get them here and to talk to you. As usual, Startup Grind, we are doing now a fireside chat around 20 minutes or so. And then the floor is open to you for Q&A, questions, and so on. And afterwards, you can join us in the networking lounge if you like, where you can put on your microphone and video and so on. Okay, so without further ado, I would just like to ask, for example, Kevin, you are unmuted, so I ask you. No, it's fine, you are unmuted, that's fine. Just tell us a bit, what is Passbolt? For those who don't know, what is Passbolt?
Yeah, sure. Hi, so first of all, very happy to be here. Thanks for having us today. Passbolt, it's a password manager that has been designed especially for the needs of technical teams or agile teams. So basically, it's a password manager, same as what you can see with 1Password or LastPass. There are already a few password managers out there, but password approach is different because it is self-hosted. So basically, people can download it, install it in their own infrastructure, a bit like WordPress. But Passbolt is also optimized for collaboration because agile teams need to collaborate a lot. They need to share a lot of passwords. They need to organize a lot of passwords. So the whole tool is designed especially to optimize their productivity. And Passbolt is basically developer first, API first, and security first. So that these are our main differentiators. Also, one differentiator that we have is that our solution is open source, once again, like WordPress. So because of this open source component, we have built very interesting community around the tool. People who are contributing to our solution, developing plugins, developing connectors, contributing in terms of webinars, articles, tutorials, how to install it on a Raspberry Pi, for instance. And yeah, so that's what Passbolt is, an open source password manager that has been designed for agile teams.
Okay, thank you. But how did you come up with the idea? I mean, it's not only Kevin, but also Rémy and Cédric, it's up to you also. But how did you come up with the idea to create a password, an open source or a community-based password manager? What made you think about it?
So I'll go for it, and Cédric and Rémy, if you want to jump in at any moment, feel free to do it. First of all, you have to know that Rémy and Cédric and we are childhood friends. So we're at schools together. I met Cédric when I was at the secondary school, and I met Rémy when I was at the university. Passbolt is not our first ventures. We worked together in the past. And in the context of my studies with Rémy also, at some point we went to India, where we did all sorts of things. And one of the ventures I started in India was basically a web agency. We did this during the golden rush of India, you know, when all the European companies and mainly French companies wanted to outsource there. Everyone wanted to outsource to India. But the problem is, French people, they don't really speak good English, but still they were very much interested by this fashion, like how do I outsource to India? So the initial idea we had was, how do we make a Franco-Indian web agency? How do we make the development happen in India with a French project management? And we started this venture in 2005. So needless to mention, it scaled quite fast. And very quickly, we scaled from just a few people to 100 of employees. And one of the main problematic we had at some point was that for each project that we are undertaking with our customers, the first thing that our customers were doing was to transfer all the passwords we would need in order to do our job. So what I mean by that is, how do we connect to their servers? How do we connect to their social media? How do we deploy the solution, inside their infrastructure once it is ready? How do we activate the staging environment? How do we push our components in the staging environment? So sometimes it was literally hundreds of passwords that was sent to us by email, by Skype, that was given to the project manager. And from there, what the project manager was doing is basically distributing the secrets, the passwords to the rest of the team. So the main problem with that is passwords by default are supposed to rotate. So they change all the time. Because passwords are changing all the time and they are distributed in a very synchronous way with the rest of the team, like they are given once basically, and then they are changing in the middle and they are not redistributed. It happened to us at the time that we were completely stuck at some point. We couldn't do our job. We couldn't connect to the server because the passwords had changed. We didn't know who had the latest version of what. And me, as the manager of the company, as a result, I was always ending up with people inside my office. Hey, Kevin, do you know who has the password for this? Who has the password for that? And it had become so terrible that we decided, okay, you know what? Let's look at what is there in the market. And we didn't find what we wanted, and I will tell you why. So we took the decision to develop our own solution. I mean, we were a development agency, so definitely we knew how to develop solutions. So initially, Passbolt didn't have any type of commercial ambitions. We are not planning to make a startup out of it. We are just trying to fix our own problem. So these problems were productivity, because we need to have centralized passwords. We need to have passwords that are organized. We need to be able to share it in a secure environment. So this is the productivity part. And the second part is, how do we centralize these passwords with a high level of security? Because our customers are counting on us. If they are giving us like their most private secrets in order for us to connect to their servers, they want us to take good care of them. So these were the two problematics we are trying to fix. From there, what happened is once we developed our first MVP, it really solved all our problems inside that web agency. And we are very happy with it. Our employees were happy with it. And we are so happy that we started sharing it with our collaborators, the other agencies we were working with. And to our surprise, every time, so for example, a customer would have wanted to share their passwords with us. So instead of letting them do so by email, we would give them an access to Passbolt and tell them, we have this platform that you can use to give us your passwords. And the reaction was always the same. Oh, where did you get that? We have been looking for a similar solution. This is really the type of tool that we want to use. Where does it come from? So we are like, okay, this is our tool. We are going to give you access to it. And they were all asking for the source code. So that's probably where the open source dimension of Passbolt came from, because it's literally started by us distributing the source code to whoever was asking for it. And before we knew it, we started receiving basically feature requests from people we never heard of, people from the US, people in Germany, companies that we are not even working with, sending us emails and be like, we are using your solution internally. Can you develop this? We are really blocked because we don't have this feature. And this is at that time that I was busy with other things, and I was leaving the web agency that I had created. And I was really feeling that there was a lot of potential with Passbolt. And that at that moment, I contacted Cédric and Rémy. So as I said, that I knew since quite a long time. I flew back to Europe. Rémy was in Amsterdam at that point, and Cédric was in Luxembourg. And I pitched the idea to them, and they got convinced pretty quickly. So in just a matter of weeks, basically, Cédric took a flight to join me in India. And it also on his free time initially.
The other thing is, also to Cédric, you joined Kevin and you went to India for it. How did you go about it for scaling it? Because the thing is, it's something else if you develop something for your own use. It works, and then you give it for free, between quotation marks, to the community. How did that work out? How did you approach this item? Because I can imagine that it's in the public domain, but if you would like to generate revenue for it, make a business out of it, there are also, on the one hand, technical items, placement, positioning, but also on the other hand, probably also intellectual property rights stuff. How did you go about it? Rémy or Cédric, it's up to you.
Cédric?
I can start. So first of all, we thought that this project will take 6 months, but it was a mistake. Obviously, it took us like more years than that to develop the second MVP. Oh, Kevin, I guess can you mute, please? Yes. Can you mute, Kevin?
We are all mute.
All right.
From you.
Okay. Yeah, I have a little bit of Larsen. So yeah, it should have taken us like 6 months, but it took us like more than that to develop the second MVP. And at the beginning, so we came out with the community edition that we still have today, and it took us some time to come with the pro version that we are selling. And as you say, that it's full of challenge actually. We thought that this solution will be. When you start this kind of project, I didn't know about the fact that it involves a lot of points regarding security, and you have a lot of expectation. And this industry is fierce. So I don't know if it answers your question.
Fine. And the thing is, I mean, okay, you had done one version, the second version, and so on. But how long did it? You said it took you a few months. But was that then a version which was ready, which you were able eventually to go to the clients that they could be used or not?
There was not one version of Passbolt. It's not like you come up with a product and it's done. So there were multiple products that were developed, and the version that is Passbolt, we just name it Passbolt for convenience, but there were several iterations of the product. The first version that Kevin developed, which is the V0, because we never, actually published it in a, very diligent manner. Like the code source was not on GitHub, that sort of things, And the design was very different. The logo was very different. The color was very different. The security model were completely different. So basically, when Kevin asked us to join, the first thing I did is dig into, okay, what's the positioning, what's the security model, and we decided that, okay, this is a good first step, but we want to create more unique selling points. We want to, for example, have interoperable crypto. We wanted to have some additional USP. And we rebuilt the security model from scratch from this version 0. And that became the community edition, the first version of Passbolt, which was free, and there was no commercial offer at all. And then we saw that there were some limitations in for your usage of a password manager when you're 10 people and where you're 100 people is not the same. So there was a need, for example, for synchronizing your user accounts with Active Directory or another user directory to add additional factor of authentication, even though Passbolt has MFA by default, And people were basically asking for things that are needed for larger organizations, and this is where we decided that, okay, there's these bigger corporations, they are also ready to pay, because small organizations, they don't mind going like what I call cowboy style, like they would be like, they just put it on a server and, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, But with larger organizations, they need guarantees that we will be available, that this thing will work all the time, because it becomes such a critical part of their infrastructure. So this is where the commercialization of the product happened. And it's still the same security model. It's just additional plugins, and it's still open source. Yeah. So still have like the same radical roots than the first version.
Yeah, I just want to add something, Steve. One very important component of how we did Passbolt, I think, is we try to be extremely lean from the beginning. And we went so lean that when we started the development of the new version of the solution, after we decided to collaborate together, we didn't even know if we were going to commercialize it. So we had a very clear vision. It was more like of a market intuition. It's like our vision of the market, coming from the web agency and working with a lot of technical people, and finding that there is a big gap between these agile teams, these DevOps teams, and the offering of the market. We are really focused on that because we are thinking this market is not going anywhere. These teams of developers, they are the ones who are going to take over. You know, they are not going to disappear. They are going to become more and more important inside organizations. So we should focus on them. This is our target segment. And we started with this simple idea, and also our, if I can say so, our love for the open source industry, because we are definitely Linux guys. We were using a lot of open source components, and you know, there was this dimension we are very happy with. How can we do something? Can we have an impact on the open source industry by ourselves? Can we have fun doing it? And I would say the first few years working on Passbolt as a side gig, the side project was like, okay, let's fit these personas' needs, these developers' needs. You know, let's make true open source. Let's focus on making a product that we would love to have ourselves. And when we released the first version of Passbolt, which was fully open source, the community edition, we didn't know what would come next, but we were like, let's release it and see what the community has to say about it. And it was our intuition that the community would be very happy, that the traction would come naturally. But we didn't expect it to that extent. After that, it went very, very fast. And this is the exact time where we got contacted by the people of Lux Innovation in Luxembourg, and we heard about the Fit for Start program. And from there, naturally, the discussion about commercialization came in the middle, because, well, it's nice to have a good community traction, but at some point you need to finance yourself.
Regarding the financing, I mean, you did the bootstrapping in order to get it to a certain community level and so on. And then I guess once you get out to the market, as you also, Rémy also touched upon it, it is the needs of your users evolve, and you also address different, but how did you go about scaling it? I mean, you have the community edition. Can one imagine, okay, you have a common frame, and then the community can put some add-ons, and you then validate the common frame for the commercial version? Is it like that it works, I guess?
Yeah, we have actually a branch that is called common on our code base. So that's the common code base for every single product, including the cloud. So, and then from there are some different branches and additional plugins and some additional changes to the core. But most of the common code is common to all the projects, and licensing is the same as well. And yeah, it's mostly our vision is people who want to pay for peace of mind will do that. And so we try to attract revenue by pushing features to paying customers that are actually willing to pay. So it's there are a lot of people who want to use Passbolt with their family, and they are not interested in paying. And even if they were paying, they would create overhead for us in terms of support. And so the game is basically servicing the bigger organization while keeping the community happy. So the way we do that, there are some certain features which we develop for our customers because we want to reward them. But after some point, when we have some additional features that have been developed for them and that are more qualified for their needs, we can bring down to the community edition some features that are more for everyone, but that were nice to have for the premium customers. So there is these two dimensions of like developing features, giving them first to the customers, and then giving it back to the community once they have been paid for, in a little bit, and then developing features that are specific for them. So, for example, you work in a bank, you need an escrow system to make sure that you have access to all the encrypted data, to make sure that there is no, illegal activities going on within the software, for example. So you will never have this need with your family unless you're planning to spy on your wife. So we have no interest in bringing that feature to the general community because the need is not there. So
yeah, please, sorry.
No,
but on the other hand, I mean, also from the technical side, it's I guess your users, they take it on their premises. It's not a hosted one. Or do you have seen that eventually there are now service providers who take now the Passbolt solution and offer it as a service to their clients? How do you see that one?
You want to talk about it?
Yeah, first of all, we also provide a cloud offer for the company who doesn't have either the skills internally or prefer to rely on a third party to manage that. So we have that offer. For sure, we have customers that can also resell the solution, or bigger organization like I cannot mention right now, but who can resell the solution internally to their organization. So all of them, I think they share the same value as us regarding the privacy, and that's why they will go for Passbolt. And that's one of our main USP right now. We are really taking care of the privacy of people, and you can see everything is transparent. Our communication is transparent about whatever happened on the system or whatever we are doing. The source code is open, that for the pro version, which you have to pay, and also for the community edition.
For the little story, I think we can mention that Passbolt's first customer was basically someone who was trying to make a Passbolt cloud for themselves and reselling it worldwide. But they didn't know how to do that technically. And they came a bit shamelessly to us, being like, hey, Passbolt, can you help me build a cloud that I would sell to everyone? But I don't know how to do it. So if you could sell me consulting, and also implement a payment gateway and also help me monetize it and advertise for it, that would be very great. And it's true that anyone can do it because it is open source and because it's following an open source model. So what we basically did is we helped him for a bit, installing it, understand the architecture of it and all. But at some point, we are also busy with our own things. We are not a consulting company, so we just focus on our product and wish them good luck.
We provide reseller discounts. So for people who want to actually set up Passbolt as a white label password manager, they can do that. We provide discounts for that, and there is also this dimension that Passbolt is a registered trademark. So you cannot sell Passbolt by using the name Passbolt. So you have to name it something else. So you cannot piggyback on our brand to do that. So that's a big thing. But it's quite common in the open source community. For example, you have CentOS and Red Hat. CentOS is basically a derivative of, and the same with Debian and Ubuntu. So it's quite normal in open source that these things happen, and then basically the product and the support and the community stand on its own, but you don't name it the same. And we also have provisions in our license that people are obliged to play by the same rules than us. So it means that they need to use the same licensing model than us. You cannot take Passbolt and make it closed source. You will have to use exactly the same license than us and share the changes that you make to the code. So basically, you're playing in the open. It's not like you can take away and run away with it. It's like you have to play by our rules. And so if you're like willing to do that, why not? It's like from my perspective, people who want to start a business, they will not basically take that work, and they will probably start their own password manager based on their own ideas, their own vision, their own understanding on how things should be done. There is a big debate in open source right now, especially with, you might have seen with MongoDB and other Elasticsearch, and like these big projects that are being co-opted by Amazon, and that feel pressure to change their license model because of big players like Amazon are trying to cut their cake. But the bottom line is the cake is pretty big. It's like they are competing to get an edge on a multi-million market. It's like this is like a big player. We're still relatively quite small at our stage.
And on the other hand, I mean, you mentioned coming to Luxembourg, Lux Innovation, Fit for Start, and so on. How did that enable you to make the next steps? Because it has been announced you got some resources, financial resources, and so on, and also some more further resources. How did that change the venture itself? Was there a big change, or didn't it change it at all? Because very often when you have a venture, a project, a company, or what you call it, and you have then an external input of resources, very often it could be that the mentality changes, that the traction changes, and so on. How did you live that internally in Passbolt itself?
The way we approach it, it's like, when you enter in a couple, into a relationship, it's like you have to know yourself. So the more you know yourself, the more you are honest about who you are, the more you can manage expectations, and the less surprises are happening down the line. And I think we are lucky on that front with Passbolt, because we had been working on it for years before we came back to Luxembourg and we got our first venture funds. So basically, when we started talking with business angels and VCs, we are very clear about who we were, where we wanted to go, what were the next milestones for the coming years, what type of team we wanted to have, what type of growth we wanted to have, what kind of compromises we are ready to make or not. And we are very transparent from day one. And that's really a big strength, because first of all, you save time. When you sit in front of a VC who has a different vision of the market than you have, no one wastes time. You're like, okay, fine, we do not have the same vision, we do not have the same approach, so let's just stop the conversation here. So you can select much quicker who you want to work with, whom can create value for you. And this is what we did at Passbolt. And I have to say, it's never a walk in the park to onboard new people and to onboard new investors. It requires more work, more organization, more structure. But I have to say we are pretty lucky so far with the people we've worked with, because they understand very well what we are doing. We do not need to debate about the strategy. We do that. To our surprise, initially, I have to tell you, we are very scared before our first round of funding, because managing an open source project is focusing first on the community growth before revenue growth. And we are very scared that we are going to say that to investors and they are going to run away, and it's true that we met a lot of investors that were not ready to hear that. Now, there are some people who really have a vision of the market, who understand that the world is turning to open source software, and who could hear our point. And when they came aboard, they knew that our philosophy is community first and then revenue. So
there was always this tension was there. Like even for us, we always wanted a business that were not like running on fumes. So we've always been like cautious about our funding and the work that we need to do on the side to be able to fund the project. And I must say, like in Europe, people are still asking you to show that you can commercialize your product, and even though you might not have the community to back it up. So for example, 10% of Passbolt users are paying customers. The average in open source communities is less than 1%. So the good number is 5%. So you can say that basically we have over-commercialized our user base from that perspective. But it's because we started early and we focused, we try to provide value as much as early as possible. So on the long term, we will see if it was actually a good choice or not, or maybe like we started too early trying to commercialize, provide a commercial offer. We don't know yet if it will impact negatively our growth or not, but it creates a solid business, so that's a good thing.
One thing to bounce back on what Rémy is saying is it's very funny to see the difference of culture between European investors and US investors, for instance. Because in Europe, I'm not saying all of them, but most of the investors will be like, okay, what is your MRR? What are your cohorts? What's your churn rate? Show me how you are monetizing your thing. You don't monetize, I'm almost not interested, you know. And in the US, this is the exact opposite of that. The people are like, oh, you are in open source. Why are you monetizing? Your focus should not be on monetization. Your focus should be on community. I'm not interested to invest in you because you are monetizing. I want you to do community growth. I don't care about your MRR. So, you know, it can be a bit lost sometimes between the different schools of thought. And at Passbolt, we, as Rémy pointed it, we chose an approach that is in the middle. We like when numbers make sense, and we do not like when we have when we are a bit in a lock-in position with investors, where in 2 years down the line we would have to, you know, be in a hurry to do another funding and possibly get a bad deal because we absolutely need money. So we like to think a bit in the middle. We like when the numbers make sense. We like when our MRR is there, when the revenue are there, so that if we want, we can take our time before the next round of funding.
On the other hand, I mean, I take a few questions which I see come popping up to me, so that's why we are already in the Q&A session. The thing is, I mean, okay, you got the funding, and then as you said, okay, it's like a marriage and it's working on. And do you still have the freedom actually to move as you would like? Or did, on the one hand, the resources you got, you also said you also got then assistance, experience, and so on. You are looking what is the input, except also from the financial side. Or did this input also assist you to focus or refocus the potential business? How would you say it for the time being? Anyone? Huh?
Okay, I'll go for it. So your question is like, is it something that is slowing us down, or does it require more effort from our part in order to work with investors and to manage these funds? And the answer, the short answer is yes, definitely. That's what we call governance. So you need to manage these investors. So you have two types of investors. You have the ones who create value, and you have the ones who don't. So we try to bring we try to bring smart money on board as much as we could. We are really happy with the investors that we had so far. We're actually surprised by the value we created. You know, initially we were not believing in it too much, but down the line they came with very interesting suggestions that we decided to explore. So in a way, it's a waste of time because this was not part of our priorities and the immediate roadmap that we had. But when we started exploring what they were suggesting in terms of strategy or in terms of networking, I mean, we got introduced to people who matter in the open source industry whom we didn't know. So yeah, it's the value, the ROI is definitely there. But yes, it takes time. As you grow with venture capital, the business changes, the face of the business changes. You have to be more structured, you have to implement more governance. And as an entrepreneur, you have to know that. You cannot jump into that without realizing it.
And that also is linked a little bit to another question which has popped up is, okay, your clients, your customers also, they see it probably more positively, but how was it also internally in the company? Because you need to scale now, because any investor wants a return. Even smart money want the return. They are doing something to get a return. But internally, the company, I mean, you were good. I guess you were growing human resources wise and so on. How did you manage that? Because you are in Luxembourg, and in Luxembourg, everywhere you hear everybody say, "Yeah, we have a problem. We have a bottleneck, a shortage of skills here and there, and so on." How are you approaching that one in order to scale also out of Luxembourg and also with eventually new markets?
For us, it's quite easy. We are not a typical local Luxembourgish company in that sense, because the project was born in India and because we are a remote team first. So even when we came to Luxembourg and we started talking with our investors here, we made it very clear that yes, of course, there are talents in Luxembourg, and we are going to explore that. And we found some pretty amazing talents, so it's quite good for us. But also at the same time, now we live in good developers are everywhere, and we want the best of them. You know, we do not want to be limited by the geography where these programmers are based. So when it comes to hiring, we are also definitely exploring, okay, we need a specific talent in that specific branch of security. Let's look on GitHub, you know, let's find the people who are really the references in this market, talk to them, get some references from them. And so the way we are working is basically we are trying to get the best people from wherever we can find them. Now, we are also lucky because Luxembourg, being Luxembourg with the financial industry around, which attracts a lot of cybersecurity talents, we have also a lot of options here locally.
So we are coming to the end. So anybody of you, I mean, each of you, how do you see the way forward? I mean, for Passbolt, and would you like to see the development of the company, of the product? Is it really going more in different markets, or what is it? How do you see it? If you could have a crystal ball, that's how we generally close. Take a crystal ball, and what would you like to see in this crystal ball? Anybody of you?
I'll start. I'll say, like, our vision is that basically when people think about password manager, they think Passbolt. Like the way they think, okay, I need to host a blog, I'm going to use WordPress or Drupal. The same way they think Passbolt. And our goal is to service larger and larger corporations, either by helping them implement Passbolt in silos or by creating like an offer that. So on the long term, like I'll say 5 years, our ambition is to grow to a 50 million budget annual of sales. And according to our growth and what we are doing to go there, this is a realistic plan. So we are very much on that path. There will be like a lot of things that we have not foreseen will happen. There will be a lot of investment needed to go there, but it's exciting for us to go from the stage of building a product and seeing it fly and seeing it grow. And right now the product is in very good shape, and we are close to meeting like 90% of the requirements from everyone. So we are quite confident with where we are going. It's quite challenging. Some days we don't sleep much because we're still quite a small team. And so we operate at 100-something capacity all the time, which is kind of hard. So I would say, like, in the crystal ball, I would like to see that as well, that we managed to get more resources and more talented people to join us. And if there are people watching these videos that are interested in joining us in this adventure, working in the open, creating software that respect privacy, that is open source, that have strong values, problems that are technically challenging and interesting, they could get in touch with us. We'll be definitely happy to have them on board.
I'll just add something to that. I mean, obviously we are aligned on everything that Rémy said, otherwise we would have a big problem. Just one more thing, I think there are two dimensions of where we are going and what Passbolt will be in 5 years down the line. There is the dimension of, yes, our ambition is to become the reference solution in terms of productivity and security for password management, password and secret management. And that's where we are heading. There is also big dimension in Europe with the major turn that Europe is turning when it comes to privacy, with the GDPR, with more recently the Privacy Shield that has been cancelled by the European Court. And we see more and more customers coming from all over Europe, mainly France and Germany, who are coming to Passbolt, not only because they think it's the tool that they need, but they keep telling us, hey, I want to go with Passbolt because you guys protect data privacy, because you are doing it the way it should be done. And I think 5 years down the line, Passbolt will be both this productivity and security tool, but also will probably be positioned as the privacy champions when it comes to password management and very serious alternatives to any other solution that is in the market.
Thank you. And Cédric, any last words you would like to share with us?
No. No, I'm completely aligned with what I say. And as we said, we have opened like few seats here at Passbolt, so we have few job offer. So if it get viral, come.
Thank you very much to all of you, and also to all of you who have been attending this SGVirtual. Good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So thank you very much and looking forward to it. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.